Hello there, Commonwealth from me. Less than a year to Zelda's big 40th anniversary, as we have at least 2 hungry Zelda teams. And more importantly, on February 21st, or Zelda, Joseph Ferris returned to the Commonwealth realm. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. And now Joey, take it away.
The co-host is back after 5+ years, and what are we talking about? Oh, Breath of the Wild. Again. This time in upscaled 4K for a new system, the Nintendo Switch 2. It goes without saying that if this rumor and leak is the first Zelda release of the new generation in 2025, then it's for graphical and performance reasons, plus pulling the 2017 launch Triforce all over again, Zelda, Mario Kart, and 3D Mario. Since how do you best compare the Switch to the Switch 2? With the ultimate test. An open-air game with no loading, even when entering buildings. It is the definitive stress test and confidence boost, which is exactly what Nintendo did at Gamescom 2023. We know that Breath of the Wild is upscaled at 4K thanks to DLSS. More so, it has a codename, U-King-0. All to make it distinct from Breath of the Wild's original Wii U codename U-King. Yep, this best-selling Zelda might be on the 3rd Nintendo system in a row. Not only that, but new content as well. With Monolith Soft's epilogue experience, the Zelda team could create something truly spectacular by connecting Breath and Tears.
I brought this up back in January, but the only way to bring people back to this 8+ year Wii U/Switch game, apart from bringing it visually and UI-wise up to Tears standard, is with a new quest. Epilogues are popular these days and could give us what we missed out on originally. The 3rd DLC, but this time without Ganondorf. A bonus where we get to see Hyrule heal after the calamity before the Great Upheaval, working together with Princess Zelda and addressing several loose threads, once and for all, including Zelda's mother, but for us Breath of the Wild veterans, Cos. He wanted to see the princess, and so did Impa. And here's a chance to let us get a heartwarming, but also rewarding epilogue that can open up for future DLC to do the exact same. Story-wise, it might have connected these 2 games much closer to the 18 prior titles, or the 21st Zelda game, Echoes of Wisdom, but it might fill in some holes. And speaking of echoes, let's address the more promising future of the Zelda timeline. Since wow, did Echoes of Wisdom save it from downfall, all while being placed in the downfall timeline. There are good reasons to be hopeful in the late 2020s. With multiple new Zelda games in development, there's potential of story-focused adventures that are respectful of established lore while adding new lore, or ruining it again like Breath and especially Tears clearly demonstrated.
Looking past the 40th anniversary, we could see a great divide on the Nintendo Switch 2. Open air that does what it wants with little regard to the timeline lore, and top-down games that respect it, just like Echoes did, and we know that Grezzo is now hungry for more on the Nintendo Switch 2. 2D Zelda is back in town, with even Castle Town, the latter of which the open air failed to provide for a decade. And with open air games taking far longer to develop on an average of 5 to 6 years, we should be prepared to play a new top-down game before the next 20+ million sellers, since these can be made in around half the time. 2026 might be a little too soon, but 2027 is a possibility, 3 years after Echoes. At the same time, the 2 most obvious new Zelda games have to address a potential issue, one that we will return to later on in the video. Since let's face it, we could be nearly 2.5 years into this new system before we can buy the 22nd Zelda. Until then, Nintendo has a challenge that surfaced with new Zelda in 2023 and 2024, a gap. 2025, which could be easily filled by Breath of the Wild 4K and or Wind Waker, but 2026, the big anniversary year, that's a tricky one.
The only thing certain is that it has to be a remake or a new Hyrule Warriors. Personally, I believe the 40th anniversary demands something that can match the importance of this year. Well, that and the fact that Mario Kart, Metroid, and likely 3D Mario have been burned off by Nintendo in 2025. Add Breath 4K to that mix, and we might be back to our 3D, followed by 2D cycle. And there might be reason to believe so, as Nash Weedle did tweet Richard, Edward, Bernard. The codenames of Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom, and Unknown, or actually it's my brother's name, Bernard. But is it a new remake? Say A Link to the Past, or maybe the already modern A Link Between Worlds? Maybe, but more likely it is the next project of Grezzo. Though after Echoes of Wisdom delivered a bigger profit than Metroid Dread, or the best-selling Metroid, I doubt Grezzo will want to go back to remakes. They've gotten a taste of creating something new and of their own, and there's little motivation to go back to their 2010s. At the same time, you want a top-seller Zelda for the big 40th, a game that was not available on the Switch. Not even for Nintendo Switch Online. That is unless we get a final Zelda gift after this upload. The Wind Waker. Though from an anniversary perspective, Twilight Princess in 4K for the game's 20th anniversary. All to mark a difference from the 10-year-old 2016 HD version. A taste of a darker and more realistic Zelda before the move to the same for the next open-air game, hopefully. To show the way, we have the Zelda HD project from 2011, and if they can deliver something above this, then you have a sure winner. Triple anniversary, and a bestseller, what could possibly top that?
How about an entire trilogy of games? Ocarina of Time has not had a new version in 15 years come 2026. What's more, this game has a lot of cut content yet to be added, plus dual analog camera controls, just a few examples that could justify a third update for this timeless gem. Ocarina of Time 4K, the ultimate and final version that is destined to sell over 10 million copies. The Hero of Time alone will do that, and if you also make it clear that this game could open up for yet another game, that being Majora's Mask 4K a few years later, say in 2028, then you have the perfect fill-in titles between a new top-down and new open-air Zelda. But wait, there could be more, since the Hero of Time's story was never concluded. Twilight Princess was originally supposed to do that not too long after Majora's Mask, but instead ended up being a story of his bloodline. Well, there is time for everything, and as we talked about the future of the timeline, here's your perfect chance to ensure that the old part of the timeline can also see new inclusions.
The missing third and final game where we play as the Hero of Time. A very different Zelda that could do just as well sales-wise as the next brand new open-air Zelda game. But should it do it before or after it? That is the big question. On one hand, if you're going for a trilogy, it is better to just finish it without distractions. On the other, it might actually work better if this final game might also be one of the late Nintendo Switch 2 games. What do I mean by that? Being a game that will launch after 2030. But also no doubt need the right development team, and though Grezzo could be offered such a trilogy, I feel that Nintendo could find a different outside studio, like say, Capcom. Their early 2000s single-player Zelda games are remake candidates of their own, but could you imagine if these two could find back together? It would be just as grand as what I've just done with Joseph. Mind-blowing. The most involved Japanese third-party supporter of the Switch generation, which pulled a miracle with Monster Hunter Rise. The perfect candidate. And if Nintendo is not able to make the trip from Kyoto to Osaka, as they are more tied now to Tokyo, there's a giant potential moneymaker who would love to jump on the opportunity. Monolith Soft. Their Xenoblade Chronicle games have started to sell on the Switch, but not even 10 million copies yet across 4 games and 2 re-releases. Meanwhile, Nintendo could give their Zelda division not just a supporting role as it has been up to this point with Breath and Tears, but the main role to handle the Hero of Time. A perfect promotion of the Zelda part of Monolith Soft, which is separate from the Xenoblade team. Creating a third Zelda team, apart from Nintendo and Grezzo. Testing them first out with 2 4K remakes, followed by the reward. The first new Zelda game of their own.
Where should the next new Zelda game be set? The last 3 new Zeldas have been set in Hyrule. Do we go back to a new land, or is it too risky from a sales perspective? After all, non-Hyrule adventures lack the same popularity. Or do they? Under the right conditions, they can sell really well. Link's Awakening Switch, for instance, set on Koholint, has sold 6.5 million copies, since it isn't as much about Hyrule, but rather what you can offer in its place. Provide the right pieces of story, gameplay, and setting, and this could be a breath of fresh air for open-air Zelda. Endless surprises and potential, just as we have seen when Mario leaves the Mushroom Kingdom, or Metroid for that matter, which has broken the tie to Zebes and SR388 for good, both in its 3D and 2D forms, and that is what Zelda could also pull off. Be a franchise that doesn't have to rely on Hyrule to sell over 20 million copies. If that can be done, then the future of Zelda could be endless. With old and new teams and old and new lands, it all has to start on the Nintendo Switch 2.
Along with Shigeru Miyamoto's and Wes Ball's Zelda movie, and who knows Zelda expansion to Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios theme parks. Either way, The CR Zelda Dream Team is back with optimism and anticipation for the future of my and probably your favorite franchise. What do you think the future will look like in the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2 and from the Zelda 40th anniversary? Sound off in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. Last but not least, a big thanks to you for watching to the end and to all our patreon.com/comearound patrons. Special shoutouts go to royal producer JC Funk and heroes Cheryl, Garrett Hoy, Holly Wolf, and Kintaro. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.